Thought I'd do a little video on Jehovah's Witnesses and alcohol. When I first came into this organization back in 1969, in 1971, I was going to a book study and I was pretty young, and I was very zealous and I wanted to get there early, so I did, and knocked on the door. The conductor let me in, and I noticed what he was doing. He had a glass, about a 12-ounce glass, half full of vodka, and then he filled it with cranberry juice. And he realized I seen him pour that drink. And I says, I didn't say anything. He volunteered. He says, well, Jehovah's Witnesses believe and it's okay to drink as long as you don't get drunk. And he says, I know, I don't get drunk. I just drink a little bit here and there. And sure enough, he conducted the book study while he was drinking vodka. He got up in the middle and mixed him another drink. Why do I bring this up? I think it's pretty prevalent in Jehovah's Witnesses. I went down and seen a friend of mine just lately. He was a couple of months ago, and he had a pioneer couple that lived in a little garage. I mean, it's small, about 20 by 15 or something. That's the whole place they lived. The parents paid him so much of money, and the thing is, what I'm trying to get to, these kids have nothing. But my buddy said, when I empty their garbage, it's just full of alcohol bottles. So I think it's prevalent. I think that what happened is when we go back in the biblical times, wine was around for a long time. So was beer. I think hard liquor came later, but this is the point of what I want to say. Now, Noah is one of our first indications that people can actually get intoxicated by this fruit called grapes. So if you really believe the story, it's not a once upon a time. Lot was 500 years old, started building the ark, took him 100 years, and he spent a year on the ocean. What was the first thing he did? First thing he did, he did a sacrifice. And then what was the second thing that's mentioned? He planted a vineyard and got drunk. We know that story. Yeah, he got naked drunk, passed out drunk. But I got a question. Where did he get his starter plants? Did he go to Costco? This guy's been drinking for 400 or 500 years. He knew what his favorite grapes were. You think he's going to go through that and not have some form of relief? And then we know about Lot. Lot was another one is interesting. Sodom and Gomorrah got destroyed, and the homosexuals and all that stuff, and his wife got killed and turned into a pillar of salt. He went up into the caves, and his daughters noticed that when he was drinking, he couldn't remember anything the next day. So they had this plan, and they laid with him. And the oldest daughter produced the Moabites, the youngest one, the Ammonites. So what's the important thing is they gave him alcohol, and apparently he had a chronic problem, but he couldn't remember anything. Now that's called in the world of addiction, that's a chemically induced amnesia. And we know Jesus, for example, made wine at the wedding in the second chapter of John, and it was good, fine wine. And people were intoxicated. So the green light's on. That's what I'm trying to say here. For Jehovah's Witnesses, they have this idea that if they can drink and not get drunk, they're okay. Well, this is what I found out as a young elder. I gave a talk one time, and that night I had a guy call me, and it was called, the talk was called What a Difference a Day Made. And I remember mentioning in there that if somebody trying to quit drinking, and I don't know why he brought that up, and I said, well, what a difference a day makes. And he calls me up crying. And he admitted, he says, I have a disease. He says, I can't quit drinking. I have alcoholism. And he was crying. Now, Jehovah's Witnesses do not have any facilities to go to. They have no hospitals, no doctors, no psychotherapists, nobody that has degrees in addictiology or compulsivity and how the neural aspects of it, that people literally get addicted to it. Now, I had a guy in my book study when I was a young elder, and his name was Joe Fettig, and he had arthritis real bad. He was in his middle 70s, and a couple of brothers came over to his house, and he was a little tipsy. He'd been drinking wine. Well, this was a good guy. This is all that made him feel good. And so the brothers, being do-gooders, they told him, listen, if you don't quit doing this, we're going to disfellowship you. Well, that next night, he laid out his insurance papers, drank a bottle of wine, and shot himself. Old Joe Fettig. He was quite a guy. I've seen it over and over. I've seen ones that work for the government, and they were able to go into rehabs. So what I'm doing is making a distinction between people who are occasional drinkers. And in Jehovah's Witnesses, there are people who are literally addicted to it. They have a physiological and psychological addiction to alcohol. But yet, if they reveal that to the elders, they are jeopardizing that they can get disfellowshipped for a disease. They can get help for this. It's very common. But when you tell somebody it's okay to drink, and that the scripture's okay at big green light, and you do it, and you get addicted to it, you better be careful about telling the elders about that, because they'll come down on you, and they have no therapeutic processes. Same thing with anorexia or bulimia or gluttons, they called, are not going to inherit the kingdom, and drunkards. You know, we've changed. Our morals, values, and ethics today have changed. We understand. You know, there are people who are extremely annoying, and they are unhealthy people when they're in an intoxicated state. But my experience has been a lot of these people really wanted help. I had one guy, not only that one call me, but in 1981, I knew about 3 brothers in the 2 congregations that were having a real struggle. And I went and asked the circuit overseer, is there any way that the organization could have some type of program where they could help some of these people that are getting addicted to alcohol? I says, like in the circuit here, I mean, in the town, I mean, somewhere where they could call and support one another when they need a little help. He said to me, he first of all looked at me like, what in the world are you talking about? And I says, listen, I know a number of these people, and they're really hurting. And he says, well, you better tell the other elders. And maybe they need a committee meeting. And I says, well, don't you think that would help if we could get people together in the circuit? And he looked at me and says, the society will not go for subgroups, period. That was the end of that. Now, why I bring this up, because I think it's pretty widespread, and I'm sure some of you can comment on this, a lot more than people realize. And some use this as a reward. You know, they work hard all day, and at night they have themselves a few cocktails. But pretty quick it gets to be a habit, and then it becomes a compulsion. So some of these people, they get into it because of the big green light. It's okay to do that. And some of them really like it. Some of them don't. And we know that there are other people who have problems with prescription drugs in the organization. But I'm just looking at it from the outside now, because I'm not a member of the congregation. I haven't been to a meeting in 20 years. And I just want to say straight out that not having hospitals and not having therapeutic processes and not recognizing the danger of this particular drug for certain people. Other people, it doesn't mean anything. So that's why I'm making this little video. I'm sure a lot of you have experiences this. And I've seen it over and over. And there's just like this huge denial. But if you allow people and give them the green light to drink, some people will get addicted to it. I often wonder whatever happened to that book study conductor that was drinking. I mean, he was probably drank at least a pint while I was there in the book study. And I finally, one time I did see him get a little tipsy when he was doing but he had this green light in his brain that it's perfectly okay. So I just want to throw that out there. I feel that there are a lot of people who have not only, I had sisters who were incest victims and got no therapeutic processes either. And they got addicted, and they got disfellowshipped. And I think shame on those men. I knew a gal who was a schizophrenic, and she had an alcohol problem, and they disfellowshipped her. I mean, they just live in this world of delusion and make believe. You know, you're not puritanical. This is a crime against humanity when you claim to be God's organization and you have nowhere to go to help these people. So shame on you. And I'm out of this group, but I'm still concerned a great deal because I lost my children to this group because I left it. And I'm not disfellowshipped, and I didn't write a letter of dissociation, but I don't go along with a lot of the policies that are there and their program. So leave it at that. Hope you have a good day, and maybe something to talk about. I know you've talked about it on other channels. It's just a shame and a pity they don't have anybody to come to their rescue, and some end up with a gun, and it's sad. Mental health professionals don't exist in Jehovah's Witnesses, period.